Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be discussing the Pluto placement in the 7th, 8th and 9th houses of the natal astrological chart. So I'm going to start with Pluto in the 7th. So if you have Pluto in the 7th house in your natal chart, or if you know somebody that has this placement, it tends to bring life lessons, very deep and powerful life lessons around your connection with other people, and I'm talking about significant connections. So for example, romantic partners, but more likely marriage partners, spouses, long-term relationship situations, or anybody that is a significant person in your life. So basically with Pluto in the 7th, you will have situations where there are power struggles and intense desire for control through your connection with others. So you may find that people are drawn to you that are also very scorpionic in their personality. So you might find that you have, if you have Pluto in the 7th, you have a lot of Scorpio people around you that are very significant people in your life. So your partner might be a Scorpio, or if they're not a Scorpio, they might have a strong 8th house energy, or something that means that they have a lot of power in their life and in relation to your life as well. So I'll give you an example. I know somebody very close to me that has Pluto in the 7th, and her husband has a very 8th house focused chart, so stellium in the 8th house. That person also works in finance, so which is very interesting, and dealing with other people's finances specifically. So I won't say what they do in case they're watching, but yeah. So that person also has a very sort of an aura of power about them. And so what can happen too is the person that has the Pluto in the 7th will be drawn to people that have a mystery about them, an allure, but also a power about them, or someone that seems very in control of their life, or somebody that's very driven and ambitious as well. So they will definitely need to be with someone long term that they feel is a strong person, a person that's capable of bringing empowerment to their life as well as the Pluto ruled energies is also relating to abundance. Because if you go back to the mythology of Hades was in the underworld, but he had a lot of jewels and a lot of riches down there. So that's why Pluto is always associated with the financial, the energy of other people's resources, because it relates to the mythology of Hades. But anyway, aside from that, so you might find that you're drawn to people that have power, ambition, drive, seem like the type of person that can perhaps even look after you, depending on other placements in your chart. If you have Sun in the 7th house as well as Pluto in the 7th house, you might be looking for someone who can do those things for you. But also it's going to be a very powerful attraction. It's not going to be an intellectual thing. It's going to be a very subconsciously driven thing where you are just magnetically drawn to that person so very powerfully, and you may feel it's very overwhelming how you feel about that person, because Pluto in the 7th house brings such an intensity to relationships. And at first, when you first meet that person, it can be very black and white. You may just know instantly how you feel about this person. You may just fall in love very intensely with this person. If you have in your 7th house, say, Mars or Saturn, and Pluto aspecting either of those, you do have to be very careful in relationships when it comes to destructive relationships or power struggles that become very degraded in their energy and very low, because Pluto also rules highs and lows. So if you have Pluto in the 7th, you will experience highs and lows in relationships anyway. But if you have Mars there as well, or Saturn there, or there's harsh aspects from the Pluto, as I said, to the Mars, you may have to watch for abuse issues in relationships, and these issues may come up in relationships. So there's all issues to do with transformation in relationships, regardless of whatever the aspects are. So even if it's a positive aspect, you're still going to experience a transformation in the relationship, but it's going to be more of a supportive energy where somebody in power can support you in your ambitions and help you with what you want to achieve as well. And it's going to be more of a flowing positive energy there. But there can be fear of loss of the partner with Pluto in the 7th house, and a need to come to terms with very deep and powerful emotions about the partner. So you may put your partner on a pedestal and see them as this very powerful person, especially in the first stages of the relationship, until the deeper issues do start to come out and need to be, sort of looked at. The relationship, there may be a lot to transform in the relationship. There may be a lot of issues that need work in the relationship. And, if you have Pluto there, you may have a very stubborn partner as well, or you may have a controlling partner, or you also can be quite controlling if you have Pluto in the 7th house, and you may be manipulating your partner in subtle ways depending on the rest of your chart. You may seek to control the relationship out of fear, and they may be seeking to control you out of fear. Aside from the significant one-on-one relationships, other people may be a source of contention and controversy and scandal in your own life. So you may have issues with just people in general, and may find that the complexities of other people affect you in a very deep way, or you might need to do some self-analysis about what you're attracting. So if you're attracting darker energies to you all the time, you may need to own your own power. So there's a lot of issues of power always with Pluto, and with Pluto in the 7th house, it's going to be very much around power from and around other people and how that affects your life. So it's about integrating what it is that you're experiencing through another person, integrating that and working with that, and doing some transformative work through that. And of course it takes self-awareness to do, but if you're someone that's analysing your chart and you have this placement, you are more likely to be able to have some awareness about what these issues of power are. And sometimes when we attract somebody that's very powerful, it's lessons about using our own power and finding our own power. And sometimes with Pluto in the 7th house, another person teaches you about how to utilize your own power. And sometimes it can be that you feel that you don't have power in the relationship, but you want power as well for yourself in your own life. So it's about seeing what's missing in a way, because often with Pluto it's where we're blocked. And so sometimes in a relationship, at first, with Pluto there in the 7th, you might seem like things are very alluring and very magnetic and very powerful and very deep, and like a very all or nothing kind of relationship, a relationship that really brings you to the deepest emotions about love and loss. And so I lost my train of thought there, but what was I trying to say there? I was trying to say that you're discovering your own true power through the relationship. And because sometimes when we can't get what we want in a relationship in a true deep way, because maybe that other person is withholding, because that's what Pluto can be about blocking energy, or an energy that's blocked, especially if there's harsh aspects as well. So you might feel blocked from experiencing that true sense of love and support that you really want from that other person. And so what you might find is that you have to find that for yourself, rather than expecting that other person to be the one that's going to be the one that lifts you up. You might come to find that through the relationship and what's not in the relationship, that you actually work out how to empower yourself. So some very deep lessons with Pluto in the 7th house. But as I said, it can be, for some people, it depends on the aspects, but there can be, as I said, just so many control issues in relationships. It could be one significant relationship, or it can be other people, in a more general sense as well. But again, it's all about trying to find where your true authentic power is within yourself, and not seeking to control other people in the way they express themselves, but just coming back to yourself and finding your authenticity. Because you're actually admiring, when you have Pluto in the 7th, you're admiring people that have authentic power. So that tells you that you want to, find that in yourself, because relationships often, it's a learning, it's a projection, it's a mirror of what we want for ourselves. Okay, so the next one is Pluto in the 8th house. I did write some notes down so I don't miss anything, because I tend to forget. So, Pluto in the 8th house, it's a very powerful placement, and these people very much have a magnetic energy about them, a magnetic aura as well, because it's a very deep feeling of power that they have within themselves. That said, they may find that in life they struggle to feel empowered as well. And in this lifetime they are searching for, where also sort of similar to Pluto in the 7th house, but the Pluto in the 7th house person seeking it through other people in some form, whereas Pluto in the 8th house, it's more to do with their deepest desires and whatever way that manifests based on other things in their chart. So, there can be very deep fears of loss and fears of death, or there can be no fear of death. It can be one or the other, because Pluto is very black and white. Children with Pluto in the 8th house their parents may notice they're born psychic. They're naturally very psychic, and also anyone with that placement is. But I find children with this placement, they just come out with the amazing wisdom, and they're very old souls usually. With Pluto in the 8th house, I'd say you're an old soul, for sure. And there'd be past lives or past incarnations of some kind, where there is some kind of having seen the darker elements of life on Earth, or of dark elements of energies. So they come into this life with a perception that is very deep and very knowing. They may instinctively say things about other people or about situations that are just spot on. As I said, it's a psychic indicator as well, Pluto in the 8th house. You may have times where again, Pluto's ups and downs, so you may have times where you're just scrounging for survival in your life, and you might have issues of survival come up, whether it's your own or people very, very close to you, very, intimate connections in your life. So, but also you may come into inheritances. You can come into huge amounts of money even. Again, other things in the chart will factor, but the 8th house has to do with inheritances as well. And I've known people with this placement that have come into big money through inheritances. But that's usually, but not always, later in life, at least around maybe late 20s, Saturn return time, possibly, depending, obviously. But they have a desire for power, that's for sure, and an interest in the occult, an interest in the hidden aspects of life, in searching through the hidden out of life. They may need to sort of search more close to home, so to speak, such as their inner self, and psychological work and therapies, healing therapies will be good for their soul. Spirituality will be soothing to them. An understanding of life after death and issues relating to that will be very healing for them, because they do have a lot of fears of people with Pluto in the 8th house, and they may, if you know someone with Pluto in the 8th house, they may keep people at bay, or they may, again, check the rest of the chart, especially the relationship areas, but they may keep people away from them due to a deep fear of loss. Because sometimes in their early life there was something where there was a significant death, or they felt some kind of betrayal, or some kind of having to say goodbye to something very significant. Pluto, it's all about endings and beginnings and transformation, and so these people can go through a lot at a young age. And really what they're coming to discover in this life is what it is that makes them feel empowered from within their own being, in a sense. So they might find something that they're good at, that they can do in the world, and that is a great source of deep sense of empowerment and even joy for them, a deep joy. But this may be very difficult to find, because the 8th house isn't usually associated with joy at all, but it is associated with empowerment, and when people find their true empowerment, that can be a source of joy for them. So it's there for them to find, but they do have to work through a lot of issues of loss, control, power struggles. They may draw people to them that are of a darker energy in some way, or people that have abusive tendencies, or people that have controlling tendencies, because they're learning about power. They may be, depends on the aspects in the chart, they may be very good with their finances. They may tend to hoard their finances, or be very controlling with their finances, or they may then spend it all at once and go the other extreme, because again, Pluto is always about extremes. They can be very intriguing people, and they can be hard to read. People may be drawn to them but may not understand them. They can be very hard to understand, especially if they've got other Pluto placements or other 8th house placements, like personal placements in the 8th house. That also accentuates that complexity of their personality and makes it harder for people to really get to know, because there's so many layers that they have. They see things very deeply. They're very insightful people. As I said, they could be mysterious as well. They could even back to what I was saying about children. Children with this placement can have a fascination with death or the darker side of life. They might have a fascination with Halloween, like in a really deep way, not in a sort of superficial way. They might be interested in, you know, cemeteries, or, you know, I know someone with this placement that's quite young, and they have a very deep, and sometimes it seems like a morbid fascination with the darker side of things, but it's very innocent. It's very like, because they're just a child, it's very much them just trying to understand the darker energies, you know, the sort of darker side of life. Because it could be coming from fear. They may fear it, so they seek to understand it, but they will search into it. They won't sort of close off from trying to understand death, you know, sex, and, you know, obviously, you know, just in general for people, they have people with this placement have very strong sex drive as well, and an instinctive desire that's very powerful as well. So they do have to, you know, be aware that they have very powerful desires in general. So for Pluto in the 8th house people, there is also going to be a time of life, possibly more than one, but usually one, where there is a very profound change in their life, a very deep change on all levels of their being, on all levels. It could be fully internally, but usually when it's internal, it manifests externally as well. So there can be deep changes in their physical life that sees them living a completely different life to how they started off. So again, you know, Pluto's all about transformation. So you'll see these people having to go through a deep change, and through that change they'll learn that change is not to be feared, but something that they actually helps them to evolve themselves. So yeah, with Pluto in the 8th, there is a need to face any fears about, if there are fears, which sometimes, you know, some people will have this very strong fear of death or loss of control. So there's a need to come to terms with and face these very deep, dark issues. Again, some people will face issues of life and death, of survival, of having to deal with other people's finances as well. And one thing I forgot to mention was that these people actually can make very good counselors. They can actually really, really help other people through crisis in their lives. They might have a natural ability for psychology, or for even hypnosis. They might have an interest in hypnosis, in the human mind, what makes people tick, body language, you know, the whole thing to do with human psychology in a very deep way. So I'm going to move on now to Pluto in the 9th house. So Pluto in the 9th house, also there can be an interest in psychology, because the 9th house always relates to higher education, the higher mind, understanding, seeking the truth, and Pluto likes to go very deep. So these people like to research because, you know, they have a natural ability to learn, and with Pluto there, it's very focused, and they can really get into focusing and searching for what they believe is a truth behind things. So, you know, they like to get past the facades and into the deeper levels of the truth behind things. They can be very driven and very ambitious people. If there are harsh aspects with this Pluto in that 9th house, and if there's issues with the 3rd house or with the Mercury, they can be blocked from expressing themselves. So I just want to add that in. But, you know, we're always looking at the chart as a whole anyway, with aspects and so forth. But they can have very strong opinions, these people. They can be very black and white in their views. As I said, if there's harsh aspects, they can be fanatical. They can be, you know, religious fanatics. They can be extreme in their views. They can really, if they feel they know something, they can really block other people's ability to debate with them. They may just try and shut them down and say, you know what, I don't want to hear what you have to say. They might not even engage in it. They might just decide that, you know, they're not interested and they won't. So they can be very stubborn. It's very stubborn energy there. On the other hand, another aspect of this placement is, say for example, if the Pluto in the 9th house makes positive aspects with the person's Jupiter or their Sun, or another aspect in the 9th house also, they can benefit from overseas connections, overseas travel, long distance communications, business to do with overseas clients, and also there can be very profound experiences to do with overseas travel and overseas connections. They might, if there are those positive aspects there, they might pick up another language and find that transforms their life in some way. So like if, you know, the Mercury is involved in a positive way, the Jupiter is involved in a positive way, and that sort of thing. Or, you know, they can be somebody that starts living, you know, their life in one country, and as they get older, they just relocate and pick up a completely different lifestyle and culture in another country. Or they can adopt another culture as their own. So they might start off, you know, as an example, as a Christian, and then they might become a Catholic, and that might completely change their life, because the ninth house has to do with Sagittarius, has to do with religion, and then Pluto transforms. So, you know, this would be a slow process for them, because Pluto also influences things in a gradual manner. And there can be a lot of fears or control issues around religion, beliefs about philosophies and spirituality. There can be a lot of control factors that have impacted that person's life. Maybe from a young age, they could have been born into a family that was very religious or very controlling about their religion, or very preachy about religion. And these people, you have to be careful that they also don't become preachy themselves, because they can become that way. So yeah, a new life can be experienced as a result of relocation to another country, or as a result of converting to another religion or another culture in some way. I'd say, you know, they're very intelligent people. They have the ability to probe very deeply into areas of study that they are interested in. And again, you know, psychology and those similar realms can be a fascination for them. And they are very driven. They can be strong leaders. They could be an amazing lecturer, a uni lecturer, or someone that you know, eventually become someone that leads other people, that guides other people in some way. But they would have to go through a lot of transformation and a lot of seeking and processing and a lot before they get to that point. Because wherever Pluto is, it takes a while for that person to absorb those lessons and to integrate those lessons. It takes time. So especially with this placement, yeah. So, you know, eventually the person could be someone in a high position that leads or guides other people. But again, as I said before, you know, we're always looking at the other aspects in the chart, the whole chart, to see how this placement, you know, is activated by aspects and so forth in the chart. I'm just seeing if there's anything else I want to say about that. I think I've pretty much covered, you know, what I wanted to say. So if you have any of these placements and you'd like to share any comments, questions, you know, whatever, feel free to just leave your comments below. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Bye.